Hey there, welcome to the Perfectly Blended Podcast, Season 4, Episode 20. Today we're going to be talking about post-holiday decompression. That's coming up
right now.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Perfectly Blended Podcast. This podcast is for blended families, for couples that want to strengthen their marriage and want a brighter future. Perfectly Blended exists to break the stigma of divorce, drop the shame and guilt holding you back, and equip marriages to thrive instead of just survive. We believe all that is possible in this life is based on the power of Jesus Christ and His ability to restore us fully. Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome, our post-holiday decompressors. On today's show, we do want to talk about that. Why? Because, it's the next episode right after the holiday season. And if you're a blended family, you understand the complexity in holiday time. I mean, we love holiday times, one of Christy's favorite times of the year, but we also know that it can be extremely complicated.
Yeah.
If you will. So,
it could be.
Do you have anything you want to share before we kick it off today, my love?
No, I did say that today, though, at work. I just said, I'm actually glad that the holiday season is over this year, and not because of anything to do with our families per se. It was work, because it's just so chaotic with call-offs and all of that we have going on. And I'm actually glad that that's over, because it's stressful to try to get through two major holidays pretty much back to back with Christmas and then New Year's, and everyone wants to call off on the day of. So I'm like, that is stupid. But we had a good holiday. I mean, I would add that. Ours was pretty uneventful. It wasn't as eventful as it normally is. I didn't get nearly as many fires or hot chocolates made for me. So.
Oh, you poor thing.
I'm pretty deprived in my life.
It was a warmer season this year, too. So it's not just the fire makers that weren't doing it, which is me. It was a little warmer, though. It was unseasonably warm this year for
that doesn't mean I wouldn't want fires
Christmas.
and hot chocolate, though.
This is true. But the funny thing is like a couple days after Christmas, it's like 10 degrees outside, snow. Like, it's just so crazy how that works.
And I didn't get a fire.
Wow. I feel like this should be about post-holiday bitterness.
About fires.
We live in Michigan, people. Okay, there'll be plenty of time for fires and hot chocolate. Like, more than enough time. Okay. So, it was a good season, though. I think we had a pretty good Christmas.
There wasn't anything bad that happened.
No. We didn't have any fist fights or we didn't have to set anybody on fire.
No.
We didn't have to do anything like that. So, it's always a good holiday when nobody dies from our hands. Post-holiday decompression. So we want to kick it off with the first thing for today, and that is you need to talk it out.
You know what that reminds me of?
What?
I'll walk it out.
I know. I was saying that when I wrote it. I'm like, we're hood. We're straight hood.
See, I didn't even know that you were doing that. You just said talk it out. I'm like,
yeah. We're hood connected in the middle, like right in our souls.
That's like that meme. I'm half hood and half holy. That means pray with me, don't play with me.
That's right. Don't forget that. Okay. She's going to get that tattooed.
Oh my goodness. Anyway.
Forearm. But talk it out, right? So we want to understand, like, it's important after the holiday season that you review everything that's happened. I mean, there could be a lot of good that happened. It's like, okay, let's take note for next year. But also there could be some things that maybe were struggles, that were hard, that were difficult, and say, you know what, let's review that. Let's figure it out. So next season, when it comes up, we know how to tackle it much, much differently.
Yeah, one of the things, not this year, but when we were in the throes of it, when it was really bad. And I know I've mentioned this on a previous podcast, is that we used to alternate Christmas Eves with our exes. And so the kids one year would spend Christmas Eve with us, get up in the morning on Christmas Day, open their presents, and then go to the ex's house, but then have to come back to our house later on for Josh's family's Christmas. And we did this for 2 or 3 years. And on our year, on Christmas Eve, it was always a fight, it seemed like, because the kids would get kept out way later on Christmas Eve when we were supposed to have them. And then they wouldn't, they wanted to get picked up at 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Day. But when it was reversed, we let them have the kids all afternoon of Christmas Eve. We asked the kids to get dropped off about 10 or 10:30 on Christmas Day, and they still would come late sometimes. So one year, when we talked about it, I'm like, it's so much actually easier for us stress-wise if we just let them stay the night at the ex's house on Christmas Eve. We have the whole house to ourselves where we can hide their presents, because if you've watched any of our other podcasts, we hide one of their presents and do a scavenger hunt and stuff.
Yep.
And they get dropped off around 10 or 10:30 at our house, and then we get them for the rest of the day. And it actually works out a lot better. Instead of us just thinking like, no, it's our right to get them on Christmas Eve, we recapped about it.
Yep.
And we changed it. And the exes thought they were winning, which in a sense they are.
Yeah.
And then we won too. And the kids won, because they didn't have to feel like stressed out. And then another year, as the kids, like 3 years ago or 2 years ago, when the boys were getting older and they were really giving us a hard time about going to Bronner's, the Christmas Wonderland here in Michigan, about picking out their ornament, they really ruined it for me, a couple years ago. And so I sat back, I prayed about it, and I really do feel like God changes our heart about things and can change our perception or give us really good ideas when we're open to his correction. And I'm like, I'm the one that wants to do it. And is it that big of deal that they go and pick out an ornament for themselves? They don't even want to. I'm the one that wants to, and I get so caught up in like, I want them to look back and have all these memories. Well, they're going to hate them. They're going to look back and hate the memories, So I said to Josh, like, why don't we just go every year and I'll get an ornament. I'll pick out, he does have a say in it, but I'm the one that really likes to do it. Pick out an ornament for each of the boys and wrap it and put it in their stocking.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started that 2 years ago. This was the second year, and it worked out.
It's less stressful for you.
Yes. So and of course this was after our, these couple things that I've mentioned was after the year was already done. Like the season was already over, and you can reflect, the saying 2020, hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
But we made adjustments, and it actually causes us less stress and the kids less stress. And it worked out.
It did. I think a big part of it for us is that we understood how to pick our battles, because we're going to have battles. Like we had battles. And so, once we realized like this whole, Christmas Eve thing was really a win for us, and we didn't care if the other parents felt like they were winning. Yeah. And I know that's a struggle. That was a struggle for us for a long time. We don't want the others, because they never wanted us to have anything good or have anything easy ever. So everything either had to be a fight or, it was always a problem. So the last thing we wanted was for them to feel like they wanted something. But when we really sat down afterwards and really had an opportunity to kind of get distance from it and talk about it, talk it through, we're like, we can win this battle way better. Like we can make it better for our children, which is ultimately what we should do.
Yeah.
But also for us. Now, it became a real special thing for years for Christy and I to be able to spend alone time on Christmas Eve. I'd cook us a special dinner, and we could sit down and we could do the scavenger hunt clues and stuff for the kids, and we can prepare for the next day, and we get to be low key. Nobody's calling us and bugging us. We're not worried about kids showing up at 11 o'clock at night because the parents were like, we're holding them hostage, in your face. So we didn't deal with any of that stuff. And when we really sat back and decompressed and talked about it, we were like, no, we think this will be good for us. And we tried it, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
It turned out to be amazing.
It was.
And be honest with you, now Christy's son is our youngest, and he'll be 18 this month. Just this Christmas, they stayed back with us on Christmas Eve because
we didn't even say anything.
No, it wasn't. Fine.
It wasn't discussed.
No,
it just
not with them. It wasn't.
No, like I could hear Garrett, my oldest, asking Josh, your youngest.
Yep.
Like, are you staying the night at your other parents' house
Mom's,
this year?
Whatever.
And he's like, I don't know. And Garrett's like, oh, we're not. We're staying there. Like they worked it out.
Yeah.
I mean, because they're 20, 19, and 18.
Yeah.
So.
And the times have changed on that, though, where now we don't have to worry about that stuff. And, something that we're going to talk about later in the points is Christy and I have something that we can do, just her and I now. So, that was okay. Like, we're okay. We're good with that.
Yeah.
We talked about it briefly beforehand, and we were like, are you good? And she's like, I'm good. I'm like, I'm good too. So
yeah.
Now the kids are here. So I think it's really important, though, that you review it and you talk it out. Like be intentional, though, with your conversation. Like, let's a way of review, like, what happened this year? what can we do differently and what worked really well. And that was really where a big part of our scavenger hunt thing came from too, because we tried it one year.
I know. I actually looked back. So I keep Facebook memories of everything. Like we have an album for everything. And I actually looked back, and Josh and I have been together. This Christmas was our 11th Christmas, I think. Or was it our 10th?
I think it was our 10th.
I don't remember. But basically all the Christmases but one or two, we actually have done that scavenger hunt. So we'd actually been doing it a lot longer.
The 11th.
I know.
I think it's the 11th.
I think it was.
We're bad people.
Yeah. 2010. Yeah. I think it is our 11th.
11th Christmas. Yeah.
So I think it was only one or two Christmases
that we didn't do it. So we've actually been doing it for like 9 years, and a lot longer than what we realized. So, and then this year, after reflecting on him and I, because as seasons change, you do have to change. You do have to adjust. Yep.
And, it used to be New Year's Eve was a huge thing. I know we've been talking about Christmas a lot, but New Year's Eve actually for us, for our blended family, with our little family, was a huge thing. So our boys all were always home. Our exes never asked for them.
They always went out though.
Yeah. But they never asked for them on New Year's Eve. And again, Josh and I, for a lot of you, if you've never watched this podcast before, Josh is going on 13 years sober and I'm going on 11 years sober. So we just didn't go out. So the boys were always with us, and it turned into this huge thing because a lot of the other parents like to go out too. So we would end up with a lot of friends over here, and Josh would make wings and mozzarella sticks and
homemade diabetes food.
Yeah, like plethora of food.
Yeah.
And we would bring our dining room table out into the living room, and we'd turn on, the whatever ball drop show, whatever it's called. What is it?
Ball drop show?
With the ball drop. What's that guy that's done it? Rick.
Dick Clark?
Dick Clark.
What are you going to call him, Rick?
Yeah. But we would have that on, and we would sit out there and we would play card games and I just like dice and Farkle and all of that stuff with them, and just had, freeze tag in the dark, and just played games with them. And it was a huge thing. Well, now that we're transitioning, because the boys are older, they do their own things. And so Josh and I, last year or the year before, we started inviting like people from our church over if nobody had anything to do.
Yep.
And this year I was like, well, we don't really get Christmas Eve anymore. So why don't we I think it was my idea. I'd like to take credit for a lot of the ideas.
We'll let her have them. She likes to have them.
That could be our night, like to be low key and just spend the night together. And we said, yeah.
We did.
So that's something new this year that we talked about doing. So you always have to adjust.
Yeah, it's important though. Talk it out. Like that's why we want to bring up this point, why it's so important. Don't just let the season go by and go, thank you, that's over. Because next year you're going to be really sorry that you didn't say, oh my goodness, like what did we do last year? Why? I don't remember. Do you remember? I don't remember. Because we played that game for a couple years, and it seemed like every time the season came upon us, starting at Thanksgiving, it was a nightmare.
I had to go back through. I was the one typically going back through. I was the one that was going back through old Facebook albums. Luckily, I album everything, and does help. And would go back through and be like, I have proof of a lot of things, like, and I have evidence, like, okay, this is our year, this is not our year, because of these reasons. So. Yeah, we just we're out of that season, but we can appreciate the people that are in them, and we can give you what worked for us, what didn't work for us, at least help. That's what community is for. So definitely.
And yes, we're going to get to that, Cassie. So thank you so much for bringing that up. We're actually going to talk about that.
I know everybody's been saying that to me lately. So I must really have just gotten 50 shades darker.
Right? Why are you so dark? All right. Number two. You have to disconnect. And I mean, not just disconnect as in get away, okay? I mean disconnect as in you need to disconnect from extended family. What is that?
That's a dangerous thing.
It's tough and it's hard. And it's important, even from your regular family. It's important that you disconnect. Like you have to get distance. Phone calls, your normal phone calls or text messages or emails. It's important that you get some space from extended family. Listen, I know it sounds like, I can't. It's a must. You need to be able to have time to decompress.
Well, at least a little bit more.
I'm saying a little, right? But
Yeah.
something like you got to give yourself some distance because we are so like attached to family in all different ways. And listen, if you're part of a blended family, understand like your family runs real deep, right? It runs across all exes and your new ex and all of this jazz, right? So, I mean, if you can disconnect from all of that for a short period of time, you have to find a way to disconnect. Stop answering your phone. Delete text messages.
No, I think that comes in line with knowing, being comfortable setting healthy boundaries with things.
It does. I agree.
So he's not saying, and I hope that if you guys, this is the first podcast that you've been listening to and you really don't know like us yet, you really need to hear our hearts when we say things like that. We're not saying like cut your family off.
Yeah, cut them off. We don't like them.
It's like, it's after the holidays. Sorry, I can't talk to you for at least a week. It's not that.
I'm just saying, in a healthy way, okay? She's trying to be kind for me.
No, I am saying it's not being kind for you. I'm saying like there is different families have different dynamics. In some families, you should say, okay, you don't tell the person, like knowing healthy boundaries, you don't call the person up and say, hey, I'm not going to be talking to you for a couple weeks, so please don't call me. You don't do that.
Right.
Like you have to set the boundary for yourself and be consistent with that.
True.
But a lot of family, especially in family dynamics, and a bunch of things have happened, people, especially after the holidays, want to call each other up, especially siblings and things like that, and talk about what all went wrong and what Uncle Fester did at this party and what this half sibling that you have did here. Yeah. And it's like people want to wallow in the negativity. So it's very good to, especially if you're a blended family, when you get your kids back for your, in your own little family, to really not be running all over the place and trying to take them visit grandparents and do this and do that. You guys need to come back together as a unit and do some things that are fun together and just decompress, be able to chill at home and not be running all over the place and calling all these people. You just got done with it. It's okay for you guys to get some quality time together back in the crock pot. Yep. Crock pot, your blended family.
Yeah, and like Cassie, it brings up a really good point. Okay, so let's say that you do have a really strong connection with your mom, but I think what Christy's saying makes sense with this is setting boundaries around even the conversations, right? We have to disconnect from the drama that's has been going on. Maybe your mom calls you up and says, oh my goodness, I can't believe such and such and such and such happened. The idea is to really disconnect from all of that. You got to have a breather of that because with blended families, there's more than enough drama involved. There's more than enough. And when, I don't know about you guys, but when this time of year came for me, like my mom would always get super upset because things didn't work out the way that she thought they should work out. And that put more pressure on me. Yeah. And in doing that, it just added more. And my mom wanted to call me up and talk to me about it. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to talk about it because number one, she doesn't understand that some things I just don't have any control over. And number two, it just makes me feel bad, right? Makes it feel rough for me. So I think the whole point is disconnect in a way, if you can set some distance, some healthy boundaries, but even in the normal conversations.
Yes, thank you. That's good.
Set your healthy boundaries within those conversations. And so, I wasn't trying to be, cold about it in the beginning, like Christy was, we were kind of giggling about it, but I think it's important. And healthy boundaries feels cold. It feels harsh. It feels mean, but it's not. And I think once we get better at setting these healthy boundaries and understand the power and disconnect in that way.
Well, I don't want to get too off topic, but the reason why if you start feeling bad or all of these things when you're trying to set healthy boundaries, it's because you're a codependent. And depending on your level of codependency is maybe something that you need to work on, which everybody has some form of codependency on someone, with someone. Yeah. And our guilt and we feel bad and all this stuff starts to, and then we are emotionally hurting ourselves or psychologically hurting ourselves or really stretching ourselves too thin because of our codependency. True. Now, there is healthy codependency, but I don't want to get too off topic with that. But if you start feeling guilty and it's a healthy boundary and you have a good community around you where you're talking it through and it's biblical and they're encouraging you like, no, it's time that you step away. It's okay.
Yeah, and I think that really kind of ties so well in with the very first point, right? So let's say you're having some struggles with the disconnect, and you can now, that's a point that you can talk to with your spouse about the following year. Like, okay, how are we going to be able to set healthier boundaries
Yeah.
around this way to be in a good position to disconnect after the holiday season? Because, I mean, your mental health is so important, especially you need to be strong in these blended families, because what ends up happening, you get wore down and you end up retracting yourself and you just
Mhm.
saying, forget about it, screw it, I don't even care anymore, like whatever. And that just causes a whole storm of issues if we get that way. So we don't want to be that way. We want to stay sharp as we can. So, if you're having problems with disconnect, like Christy said, it's probably some deeper issues, but talk to your spouse about it. That's what we're here for. It's what we're
Yeah.
supposed to do. So make sure that you're talking about it. Are you ready for the third point?
I am.
This is why we're tan, people. Take a mini vacation or a long one.
Well, this one really isn't mini. Yeah.
Ours isn't mini, but we've been planning it for a year.
So Josh and I know other people are out there, have not taken vacations much longer than us, but Josh and I haven't. We're a blended family, so it's not like we had each other before we had children. So a lot of, nuclear families, you get together, you don't have kids, you get to, have all this quality time together before you have kids. And when you're a blended family, I know a lot of you know that you really don't get that. Like, it's like instant family,
Yeah.
right? So Josh and I we got together very beginning of 2011, pretty much. So New Year's Eve of 2010. So pretty much 2011. And so we've never did anything together except for our honeymoon, which is in 2013. And so we are going on a vacation for the first time, just the two of us, since 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we have taken like a night for an anniversary. Like, we've drove over to the other side of the state or somewhere within the state and stayed the night at a hotel. But that has been like one night. So you get there, you check in, and you go to sleep, and you wake up, and you check out, and you come home.
Yeah, and you eat. You try to eat between all of that stuff happening.
Yeah. So we have been planning this for over a year, and we're really excited to go and it be a tropical vacation. So we started tanning anyway. So
we don't burn.
That's what everybody's excuse is. But everybody likes to tan. So
yeah, and that is a good reason to go tan, is make sure you don't burn on your vacation and be miserable the whole time.
He doesn't burn, so
yeah,
we could show up there. He could show up there his whiteness, which isn't, and he wouldn't burn.
It's important though, and I understand post holidays, a lot of people are tight on money, right? And this is something we've been planning for a long time. We've been saving up.
Yes.
Don't use as an excuse to not get away for a day, for an afternoon, for something. Like, plan in advance to get away a mini vacation, and that's an ultimate way to really decompress. And I don't mean get away to talk about the hard stuff.
I was just gonna say that.
Don't do that. Don't make it a work vacation, right? Where you're working. Like, let's talk about our family. Let's take notebooks and let's take them. No, don't do that stuff. Go get away for a day or two and just enjoy each other, right? I mean, we've been in this game for a long time now. Like Christy said, we're on 11 years of doing this, and this is really our first extended vacation away, and we're really, really looking forward to it. Are we going to talk about all of our blended family issues when we're gone? No. Like, we will not do that. We're going to talk about, like, let's try to get burnt. How long can we lay in this chair? Like, those are the things we're going to worry about. And and enjoy each other, right? And really focus on each other and spending quality time and developing our marriage to a different level. So it's important that you do that. We've been here for years with Jason. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I hear you, and it's important though that we schedule this stuff in, and especially post holiday season. It's like, I don't know about everybody else, but January just feels brutal. Like, it is a brutal month. It's like a recoup month that we don't feel like we have an opportunity to recoup.
And I don't like people saying that because it's Graydon's birthday month and my birthday month.
It's hard.
So
I know we have to shine bright for Christy and Graydon on their birthdays.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is tough. It's tough. I know. We actually have a daughter that has a birthday in December. So I am truly blessed, I think, with my birthday because it's in September. I mean, there's nothing in September.
Garrett's in April.
Yeah, and Garrett's in April. Yeah, Josh is in November, so it's around Thanksgiving. Yeah, it's around Thanksgiving. So
we have Josh, Thanksgiving, Jordan, Christmas, New Year's, Graydon, me.
Yeah. That's it. We're done.
We're done
until April. But it's important that you get away. Like, take some form of a mini vacation, plan it. Like I said, I understand that it's not possible for everybody to get away big, but plan it. It's important that you connect with your spouse after all this stuff. It really, really is, because it can drive a major wedge between you two. I mean, don't think that we love each other's families, extended families, super deep and awesome, and like, oh my gosh, it's so wonderful when all your family's here and everything's going great. No, it's not true. And nobody gets more offended than your spouse being upset at your family. Like, it's just true. And so, but we have to have some compassion, understanding. And the only way we grow the depth of that is spending quality time together. We have to do that. So I think that's my favorite one out of all these.
So when you do go away, even for a night, you can look up fun things like silly questions to ask each other, to remind each other, like when you first got together, or new questions to re-spark things. There's silly games that you could look up and play. So if you just get together and you're like, I don't know what we're going to talk about if we're not talking about the drama in our life, there's Google.
There's other things you can do.
Yeah, there's other things you can do, but in the car ride or wherever you're going, there's like one of you that's in the passenger seat can be Googling things to look up and talk to each other about.
That's true.
And yeah. Josh and I have done things, not necessarily Googling questions, but I've Googled or he's Googled like funny facts or like funny, I don't know, interesting things. And we're reading it to the person that's driving and cracking up laughing just because it's so hilarious. And then it gets us talking about other things,
Yeah, we have some of our greatest conversations in the car.
Yeah.
We have.
Yeah.
And it's because we turn the radio off and we don't play on our phones, right? Now I get on our phones and stuff to do what she's talking about, but we're very intentional with our time and our energy, the way that it's spent. So even if it's just an afternoon or a day away, like focus your energy on each other. Like somebody said something today when I was at the church and I told him I was getting away and our pastor, John, he goes, oh, it's just you two going? I said, yeah. And he goes, oh man, yeah, you get reconnect and stuff. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, we make sure to try and be intentional, but this is going to be awesome for us. He goes, yeah, it's really sad when people spend their whole years raising their children and they never have an opportunity to do this. And then their children are gone. And it's like, they don't even know each other. Mm-hmm. And so we don't want to allow that to happen. Like, you have to be intentional with this to make sure, because these kids are going to grow up and they're going to leave. I mean, they may not leave till later, but they're going to leave. It is sad, but you have to make sure that you have a healthy relationship with your spouse. Ultimately, that's what matters. That's how your blended family is going to thrive. That's how your marriage is going to survive after the kids do grow up. So, post-holiday decompression. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I think it's the points that we were talking about that need to be done, especially right after the holidays now are over, is talk it out, sit down with your spouse. And a lot of times the reason why things like this happen and then little things take root and then end up blowing up later on is because we think that these simple little things right here are not important, or they're no big deal, mm-hmm. or, oh, I can do it later, or no, I'm, just being fickle about it, or no, you really do need to sit down as a couple and say, hey, what did you think about this year? That, number one, shows your spouse that you care about their feelings. Maybe they're really upset about something. Maybe they are like trying to work through in their own mind, because we're individuals too. Like, hey, I really didn't like this, or I didn't like how we did this year. And they don't think, like, Josh and I are both really independent people. So even in our own relationship, I'll be trying to work through something that I didn't like or want to adjust and not even talk to him about it. I'm just working through it. Like, mm-hmm. How can I'm a fixer, I'm a problem solver. So it's like, how could we do this? How could we do this? And I don't think to talk to him about it. So if he came up to me and he's like, hey, so what did you think about this year when we did this? Because this year we didn't do this, or we did this instead. We didn't host Christmas at our house. We went over to my sister's house for Christmas. How did you feel about that? Did you like the time? And just so we get on the same page. It doesn't mean that we're going to change his whole family's where it's hosted and what time it's going to be at, but at least we know how we're both feeling about it, absolutely. And it brings us closer. It helps us talk things through he may be able to change my perception on something. If I have a bad perception or a tainted perception of something, he can say, well, did you think about it this way? That's what it's for. So that's what talking it out is, probably to me, the most important, because communication is the most important thing in your relationship. So if you can't talk things through in a healthy way between each other, that's where you need to start, because we've always said the marriage comes first.
Yeah.
So, and the only way that you guys will be able to do that, though, is if you disconnect from everybody else. It doesn't matter what everybody else thinks. It doesn't matter what your extended family thinks.
Nope.
It doesn't matter what your friends think. It matters what you two think and you two want and how you two are feeling in your blended family and your relationship with your holidays and things. So talking it is not too late. It's still going to come back around next year.
It is every year.
So you need to talk it through, and you do need to disconnect from everyone else's opinions and everything else, feelings about it. It's what you two think. And then if you need to take a mini vacation in order to do this, to make it fun, you know, and some people, we've never done this, but it probably would have been fun if we would have thought about it. Some couples do like vetoes, like, hey, I get one big veto a year and you get one big veto a year. So if he came to me and he's like, yeah, my family is saying we're going to go do this year. Veto. That's my veto, you know, and they just make it fun and they laugh, you know, and we, you know, stuff like that. So,
yeah. And I think, you know, the whole disconnect thing is understanding that it's all about boundaries. You know,
Yeah.
I really think that's a good one to talk about, is that, you know, we need better boundaries, because it's easy for us to get wrapped up in, like, you know, with my mom, right? I'm the only boy out of 4 siblings. My mom's
you're so lucky.
my mom's got my ear, you know, and
Yeah.
she likes to share her opinion, and that's
You're
fine.
the
I
only
don't
boy.
I don't mind her sharing her opinion, but I have to understand I need to understand how it applies and how it shouldn't apply. And I think that's important to do that. And so I think, you know, the same thing with, you know, girls that have, you know, their mothers, you know, are in their ear and they're saying, you shouldn't let this happen. You shouldn't do this. Well, you got to be very careful on that. It's okay that they share their opinions, but ultimately it's about your spouse and about your relationship. And so don't allow those things to infiltrate that, because it's not going to change the outcome of what happened. It's just going to make you more upset. So I think that's
and your mom is always going to be on your side.
Yeah,
Like,
always.
they're not going to take the side of your spouse.
She's like, I don't even like this dude. It's the way that it is. So, you know, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you had, please do us a favor and hit the share button. I mean, then we'd really appreciate that. Next week, we're going to be, it's going to be a little sunnier where we're doing our podcast from. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned. We will be on the,
we're going to do it from our phones, but
yeah, halfway across the planet. So it'll be sunny and wonderful. So
yep.
Next Tuesday at 7, we'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.